Hey everybody, how you doing today? It is a gorgeous day today, so I thought I would sit outside and record this video on how a bill becomes a law. So the first step is that there has to be an idea for a law. I remember when I was a little kid, it was not the law that you had to wear your safety belts, your seatbelt in the car. And then by the time I got my driver's license, it was a law. So that means that somebody had to come up with the idea that this should be a law. Oftentimes laws are created for the safety of the citizens of America, because in the preamble, that is one of the purposes of the government, is to take care of its citizens. So that's just an example that I'm throwing out. So a congressman or a senator could come up with the idea, or somebody like you or I could come up with an idea. Now, we aren't in Congress, so we can't start a bill, but we could certainly talk to our representatives. We could go to their office. We could give them a phone call. We could send them an email. We could probably send them a text nowadays. But if we have an idea for a law, we can certainly get the ball rolling by making those suggestions to our representatives. And then if they agree with the idea, say, hey, yeah, I think that'd be a good idea that we should have everybody wear safety belts, because then less people would die. And that's always a good thing. Then they would basically write up the bill. There's a form, and then they would introduce it to Congress. Now, a bill can start in the House of Representatives, or it can start in the Senate. It doesn't matter really which one, but it has to start in the House or the Senate. Then the bill goes to committee, and committees in general just do a lot of research and investigating about the bill. They might investigate like data about how many deaths there are in different cities. They might research the cost of what it might take to have car manufacturers install seatbelts and other things like that. And then let's, for example, that this seatbelt law started in the House of Representatives. So the House of Representatives would vote on the bill, and they need a majority, which is 51% of their 435 members, to agree that, yep, this should be a law. And if they get that 51% vote, then it moves on to the Senate. And then they have a committee, and they debate, and they discuss, and do basically everything that the House of Representatives did when they had the bill. But then the Senate votes next. And if they vote, yes, this should be a law, great, then it moves on to the president. But if it doesn't get the 51% vote in the Senate to move on, the bill dies. It is just done. Now, the House of Representatives could make changes to the bill, because maybe the Senate only disagreed with certain parts of the bill. And they might say, hey, you know, we kind of like this, but if you could change or tweak these parts of the bill, maybe we could vote in favor of it. And so they can negotiate and try to work things out. But essentially, the bill has to start in one house. It passes, and then it goes to the other house, and if it passes, it goes to the president. I use the example that this bill would start in the House of Representatives and then go to the Senate. Same is true if a bill started in the Senate. It would have to pass their 100 people vote, and then it would go to the House of Representatives and have to get a majority of vote there. If at any time the bill does not get that 51% vote to continue on through the process, the bill dies. Now, in the case that the bill passes both houses of Congress, it would move on to the president. And there are a variety of things that can happen when the president gets the bill. The first and easiest one is that the president says yes and signs the bill, and the bill becomes a law. The other thing that can happen is the president can veto the bill. And that simply means that the president is voting, no, I don't like this bill. Now, just because the president vetoes the bill, that doesn't mean the bill is automatically dead. The Congress can do what's called override the president's veto. And this is an example of checks and balances, something the legislative branch can do to check the president, check the executive branch. And to override the president's veto, that means that they're going to make it a law, even though the president voted no. In order to override the president's veto, you need 2/3, that's 66%, voting in favor of overriding the president's veto in the Senate, and 2/3 vote, that's 66%, in the House of Representatives. It is not a combined Congress 2/3 vote. It is a separate 2/3 vote in the House of Representatives, 2/3 vote in the Senate. And if they can get that 2/3 vote, you can override the president's veto. Now, that really doesn't happen very often. In fact, I have some information here that in bills presented to presidents between 1789 and 1953, there were only a handful of bills that were the veto was overridden. In fact, only 1.9% of vetoed bills were overridden by Congress. So that shows that the power of veto by the president is a pretty powerful veto, because it is very difficult to override the president's veto. So in short, that is how a bill becomes a law. Thanks for watching. Bye.